Um,
Got it.
got it. You've got it also?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we need to volume down our YouTube.
I don't, this is on your YouTube, not my YouTube.
Yes, that is correct.
So I don't know how to lower your YouTube volume.
No, I got my volume down. All
Okay.
right. Where are you? There you are. All right. Hello, Amy Elizabeth, somatic and intuitive healer here. Um, Thanks for your patience as we got this set up for our first YouTube live. This is my friend and colleague, Becca Honeycutt. She is a shadow worker. And Becca, why don't you introduce yourself a little, please?
Heidi ho. My name is Becca and I am a shadow worker. I help women get out of PTSD, stuckness, all the jazz that keeps you stuck in not being able to move forward in your life, and feeling paralyzed, and turn your pain into power. So that is what I do.
Fabulous. I love it. Thank you, Becca. So, questions can be popped into the chat box on the YouTube. I can see it there. So I will keep track of things. The thing we kind of wanted to touch in on today is body healing and body stuff. I know as a shaman, as an astrologer, certified archetypal consultant, and I do a lot of manual therapies. I am really encouraging clients that now is not the timing energetically to be setting resolutions. And I know, Becca, you and I had a great chat before we started. Can you kind of fill us in on some of the things that you shared regarding resolutions being kind of a zero-sum game?
Yeah. So I talked about this a lot last week. So for me, it was like resolutions. What I'm noticing is resolutions. If you're starting with the resolution, first of all, a lot of them are very like, I say this non-judgmentally, but I can't find the other word. Superficial. It's about what do I have to do out here to like look better, be better, all that kind of stuff. And by definition, if I'm starting with resolution, I'm starting with something is wrong with me. And that's never a good way to go. And then if I'm giving myself a certain amount of days to get to a goal of, I got to fix this problem with me, I got to fix it. So much mental energy. And it's a lot of unhealthy ego that keeps us down. So when I skip something, or I don't do one thing in this thing, or I do something, I feel like a failure. So I'm setting myself up to fail because I started with, I got to fix me, rather than picking, like, I pick a word for the year. So I pick a word for the year and I just intend that I want to experience this or be in relationship with this word throughout the year. So this year I chose the word freedom. And yay, that sounds really great. But what it's also going to do, I know, is like highlight my limitations around where I'm keeping myself from that. So it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy ride. Like, yay, I get to be free. Yeah, I get to be as free as I am. But it's also going to shine a light on, oh, here's where you shove yourself down. Oh, here's where you whatever. But I don't have a goal to like, I got to be free by the end of 2023. It's just, I'm here to experience it. So there's more fluidity in there, and there's more room for like mystery and the unseen to speak to me. So that's I like to leave it open for that, so that it's more of a relationship than it is a have to thing, you know?
Yeah, I love that. That's really great. I know I have been really working with the energies, and astrologically right now we've got Mars is retrograde until the 12th. So this week he'll be stationing in Gemini, which is an air sign. So there's this feeling of reviewing perspectives, of gathering perspectives rather than taking action. And then Mercury stationed retrograde on the 29th of December. And Uranus has been retrograde for quite some time. Uranus has been retrograde since August. And both Uranus and Mercury are in earth signs. They're in signs of our body. and signs of our material world. Uranus and Taurus is really about our resources. And Mercury in Capricorn is about our practicality. So I know I am being very practical and very adult and very sexy right now and working on my taxes.
Oh,
Because that is
God.
such a Capricorn piece. And Mars stations direct on the 12th. So that action piece is going to shift, but he's still going to be traveling in his shadow until March 15th. So we're going to be reviewing things one last time in Gemini. How do we think about things? Can we bring in more perspectives? So your perspective on kind of resolutions being a zero-sum game, because we're starting out from a place of lack. We're starting out from 0 or less than 0. How do we then make that work? Mercury and Uranus are, checking our communication. And Uranus is, where do we want to do things differently? How do we want to be in different revolutionary relationship with our resources? And to figure that out, we need to really dip into our values, which brings us also right back to resolutions. How do you pick, how do you go about picking your word of the year?
I literally just kind of feel into my system. So there's no logic in it, right? Because if I'm going to be intentional, for me, it's like a lot of the work that I do is about getting you out of the mind and into the rest of your body, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot more of our wisdom down below our neck, and our head is usually the thing that's hanging us up. So I usually feel into it, where it's just like, what is my word? I'll literally just stick my hand on my heart and I'll feel into that, and I'll breathe, and I'll ask spirit, I'll ask my body, what is the word that wants to show up for me this year? And then something comes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do you mark that by the calendar year when you say year?
I do. I actually do. I shift it up just because my brain will forget, because I'm a clocker. So I'm like, my right brain does need to have some sort of organization in it. And I know that if because I'm just came out of corporate for like my whole life. So my brain works on that. January 1st. There were a bunch of explosions last night. It said, yay. So I'm like, yes.
I asked because as a shaman, I work on a seasonal calendar or an astrological calendar. And astrologically, we don't start the new year until April 19th this year. So I am really, I know, working with my community on what are we letting go of. And we're intentionally not planting anything. We're intentionally not setting anything up until we get to April 20th, so that we really enter with a very clear slate. I keep telling my women's circle, we're preparing the soil right now. We're making sure that things are clean and clear and spacious by doing the prep before we plant. So I'm always curious as to when people set themselves up and how it carries them through. I know I set myself up on my yearly journey at my birthday, on my solar return. And smart. My birthday is also in March. So it coincides with spring. My birthday always happens after the spring equinox, within a week, give or take a couple days. So it's easy for me to set up a yearly calendar that way, a calendar, if you will. I love it. What kind of how does your body, I know how my body moves stuff. How does your body move stuff? Like, you're working with freedom.
Emotion. I'm a huge emotion person. So a lot of my stuff comes from just releasing emotion when I can get there. Otherwise, if I can't get if the emotion isn't moving, then I know I'm not connected. And if I'm not connected, then I also don't force that. I just literally go, I feel stuck and I stay with whatever it is. So it's really, for me, it's about coming into the present moment with what is. Because that's where I have a lot of power. So it's like, if I'm not, like Spirit's been working with me the last 2 or 3 days, like crazy. I've been like sitting in front of a window and crying my ass off and lighting candles and burning shit. And, I mean, it's the whole thing. But I hadn't felt connected in such a long time when I made the move, because it was like all my energy needed to go into the physical to make this happen. So I felt separated from Spirit. So it was like getting back to that was like, I just have to wait. So it's like, Spirit, I don't hear you anymore. I'm not hearing you clearly. I'm not, and I don't like this. I want to be able to ground in and whatever. And I literally just set the intention and I had to wait. So it was about waiting with, I feel like I'm not connected right now.
Yeah.
How do I feel? And what does that bring up? Then just being with it. Where is that living in my body? Can I go in that place in my body and just be with it? So, and if it's like, well, I can't fight it and I'm irritated and I'm resisting it and blah, 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 then it's like, great. I stay with resistance. I stay with irritation and I let that be there, but I'm not going to pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
So that's usually how I move shit.
Fabulous. I just want to let the folks that are watching us on YouTube know I am watching the chat. So if you have questions for us, drop them in there and we would be happy to answer. I know I love, Becca, that it's been very emotional for you because we just got through this Cancer full moon. And of course, Cancer is water and it's about moving the water. It's about letting the emotions flow. And I'm a very physical processor. I need to move. And I'm in a container now, an energetic container where I'm walking towards facilitating a retreat in April. And it has really been like this switch has flipped. I actually had to get out of bed last night and like move and process some stuff through my body. And I do a lot of processing through movement. And I agree, Becca, so much happens below our neck if we allow space for it and just like expanding back into the energetic body. Because I know I have definitely been, I don't want to say separate, but there's been a lot of stuff going on in my energetic space that now is starting to, like, it's ready to come in to the material space. And I ebb and flow between that physical work of moving the things through my body and allowing them to land so I can start to practice and be with the work of embodiment. But I also have to like give it space where I'm not constantly working the physical so that the energetic, the unseen, the soul and the spirit of things can move and can shift.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that.
You were frozen for
Sorry,
a minute.
I know. I know. I'm literally trying to close every freaking tab I have because all of a sudden it was getting a really glitchy and I was like, what can I shut down? So I'm like, I was doing that while I was listening to you.
Totally perfect.
Yeah. Right. You gotta love it. It just got, I mean, it all of a sudden it started downpouring, got really, really windy here. So that may also have something to do with it.
Yeah, that may have something to do with it. I know you went through Barbara Brennan's school, right? And so part of what you do is work with the energy bodies. Can you talk about the different energy bodies for us? When I talk about the energy bodies, I will just often include them all as the energy body.
I love it. I love it. Well, to me, it is. I mean, it is all one thing. So, yeah, I went through like an annex of Barbara Brennan. I went through a school that's called Lionheart that isn't available anymore in Studio City. So So we learned, the teacher there was a student of Barbara Prunin, so she did teach us things. And honestly, the way I work with energy is very different than what I was sort of trained to do. That my training was very, very technical, but I just kind of feel into it. So it just depends on where I'm at. But the levels that I was trained to work with were like 1 through 7. So different levels of your body being, they all pull back into the physical and they all radiate out into the spiritual. But there's 7 different levels and they correspond to the chakras and the whole ball of wax. So I usually just break it down to noticing whether you're where situations are trapped. Are you trapped in what we've talked about, like mental body, spiritual body, energy body, physical body, and emotional body, and then psyche? So there's 6 that I tend to deal with. But I will check into the energy body because they all hold one of those. Like, where is it stuck? Are you stuck on 1 or more levels? Are you stuck on the whole thing? Are you stuck in 2 or 3? Most of the time I find, like, I just went through this with myself the other night. So it's really funny you're bringing this up. But I'm paying attention to where is the glitch? Is it in my, I'm probably having a physical issue. Doesn't mean it's stuck in my physical body. So it's like, where is this? Is this an emotional? And it was like, I can't remember what with myself I went through the other day, but mine was definitely emotional, definitely spiritual, but it was showing up in the physical body. So I was like, okay, all right. So it's like where I need to pay attention is like the emotional, because I can feel that. And there's just like this heavy, sticky right there. And then when I went into my spiritual body with whatever it was, that's cleared right now. So I'm getting, there's nothing there anymore. But it was just like this weird, like, film keeping me from my spiritual body. So I was like, oh, all right. And once spirit started talking to me, and then it was like, bam, okay, here we go. You've made the intention to get to know yourself and to stay with yourself and to feel yourself. So, okay, that can clear up. Great. And then it was like, now let's go into the emotional. Now let's look at your values and beliefs and whatever. And I was just a hot mess for a couple of days.
Oh, that's perfect. And that's kind of what I wanted to speak into. Because I, as a manual bodywork therapist, it's something that I see a lot of, that our physical ailments are oftentimes in one of those other spaces. They're linked to an emotional blockage. They're linked to an energetic blockage. They're about a belief or a recording that's playing in our mental body. Like they oftentimes are something that is manifesting physically to try to bring our attention to it. As a parent, I have often said to a lot of clients, our body is the loudest piece, and it is oftentimes, you can see it coming if you're paying attention. You can see it before it shows up, just the same way you can see with a toddler that the tantrum is coming. If you're paying attention, you can see that the tantrum is coming, that there is something that is going to go out of whack and sideways and off the rails before the tantrum happens. And when we're paying attention, we're really deeply present with ourselves. It allows us to lean into derailing that tantrum, to just slide right in there and knock that off and see what we can do to support and help the situation in different ways. Because I was like you, I was all up and wiggly and kept everybody up all night. And I just finally, I'm like, I have to get out of bed and just move this. I just need to be with it and move it. And it only took me like 20 minutes, 25 minutes once I got up and just was with it. I was so just loaded with things that were available for me to start bringing them into my consciousness and into my space.
Mhm.
So working with that body piece is super duper important. I see we have some more folks watching. I want to invite those of you that are new. If you have questions, requests, drop them in the chat box, because we are open to interacting with you. And in fact, we love interacting with you.
Mhm.
Do you have
You're
any
our
other?
inspiration. Yeah.
Do you have any other pieces, Becca?
No, I really love, sorry, you mentioned something and my brain is all skitsy today. So I'm like, bing, bing, bing. But, no, there's total truth in what you say. And the body is so important. And there's just so much of that we don't listen to. And I feel like that's where we're going this year. So it's like, I mean, we've been sort of headed that way anyway, but with everything that's like up in the universe and up in the energy thing, it's like, it's been happening for like 2 or 3 years, where it's like, at least from my my little perspective, energy is becoming louder than the physical world. So the energy world is becoming much louder. And to me, this is why people are freaking out, because they don't know how to handle that. So, but we all know how to feel it. So if you've ever been in like a tense situation with somebody where you're not talking about what needs to be talked about, right? You can feel that like palpable fire burning in your body. But we just, our mind, we just sit on it. And we just, no, everything is fine. Right? It's not fine. If you read my face, you can tell I'm not fine. Right? Read the fucking energy in the room. So this is where it's like, it's about getting honest. It's about showing up, and it's about using everything below your neck to notice your own alarm bells, your own boundaries, your own instincts, your own innate system that tells you the truth, and follow yourself. And so if we don't listen to that, we can't do it. And I feel like that's why we've been pushed into like, hey, you guys are stuck at home for 1.5 years, because Spirit's like, we need these people to learn this skill. How are we going to do that? Here we go. Boom. We're going to shove them in there, and they're not going to be able to get out, and they're going to have to tune into how the fuck they feel. So to me, that was like sort of the high side, even though it wasn't all that comfortable for some people, me included. It did the trick. It made that louder, and it's like, oh, well, I haven't paid attention to that. And you start learning, or I started learning, where I was betraying myself in order to fit into the collective. Bullshit. So I'm still working my way out of that, because it's so subconscious. It's so ingrained in me to just, oh, no, they're going to string me up and light me on fire if I say that. I'm going to disappoint these people. I'm going to, because we've been consciously trained to be people pleasers and follow this, like, give ourselves away and follow a collective. Well, I'm no longer present in there. My divinity is not present in there. When I listen to my own body and I make my own decisions, and I don't give a shit about upsetting you, I don't have to be a dick about it. But I can certainly disagree with you and say, oh, that's not true for me. For me, it's bibbity bobbity boo. Yay. What did we just do? We created diversity because I'm listening to myself. So it's just, there's so much that opens up that I am excited to get back to. But I know a lot of people are going to be flipping out because they don't know how to listen to energy, and trying to get off the train of people pleasing and collective train of belonging. It's gonna fucking hurt. We're gonna disappoint a lot of people, and you will all be ready to do that in our own time. But
and I don't even know if we have collective belonging. Like, for me, belonging is a really sacred word that has to do with being able to bring all that you are, and your most authentic self and your vulnerable self, and still be welcome. It's more of a collective, can you disappear and become part of the wallpaper to support the box that's holding you in, rather than belonging.
Yeah, I would have said fitting in, but holy crap, I feel what you said maybe the fuck more. That's, yeah, wow.
Like, can you actually make yourself part of the container? And we are in such a perfect storm from a cosmic timing standpoint. We're ending a 26,000 year cycle. We're in the last 130 plus years of a 21,000 year, a 2100 year cycle. We're just in these periods, all of these really big cycles shifting. And what you said about the energy, being able to feel and listen to the energy right now is so important. And I do think it's why so many people are so intensely uncomfortable. Because the frequency isn't going to slow down. It's not going to slow down. It's not going to change. We're being asked to up level. And to up level, we have to vibrate in a way that removes any calcification. We have it vibrates us out of the box where we've become the box. It vibrates us out of the box and it frees us from that. What did I see recently? And I would love to hear your take on closing your aura.
Oh God, I hate that.
Thank you. I had
Freaks me out every time I hear people talk about this shit. I
had the same reaction. Can you go into more of it from your perspective and your background? Because yes, when I hear something about closing your aura, my system is like, why would you do that? Why is that what you would choose? Ever?
I don't know. I don't either. I don't understand that. That's, to me, that's the same thing as like, just stop breathing. Stop your blood flow. You might as well be dead. You can't even shut it off. It's an autonomic thing that happens in your nervous system. Yeah, you can learn about energy and you can learn how to do this. There's a difference in my world between protecting your aura and closing it down. All right. Now, there are times when closing some parts down are good, not necessarily permanently closing, but it's like if I am super psychic and I am done, like I need to go to bed and whatever, like, okay, I can maybe turn my 6th and 7th from like a 20 to a 5 so that I can go to sleep. All right. That's a good use of this. But to shut down your aura is to shut down your energy body. You're shutting down your energy body. You're shutting down your life force. Life force is a thing that's going to clear all the crap out of your system. It's going to clear the crap out of your physical body, energy body, emotional body, mental, everything we've been talking about. My connection to that life force, my connection to allowing that flow to come into me is like breath. It is what keeps me alive. It is what keeps me connected to soul. It is what keeps me connected to my divinity and other divinity as well. Nobody should be shutting that shit down.
Yeah. No, I get squeegee every time I see it. I was like, oh, why would you do that? And for me, I kind of picture it both as you were talking about, like turning the volume down, almost like a soundboard, being able to decide where you're loud and where you're receptive, and moving those knobs on a soundboard. The other way I really work with my aura is as if it's a cell membrane. For those of us who are biological anatomy and physiology geeks, just stay with me, everybody else. The cellular membrane has receptive cells on the outside. And so I actually set up a personal cellular membrane at the fingertip edges of my like personal little egg of energy system. And then I created cellular receptors, just like a cellular membrane has specifically shaped protein receptors. So that what is penetrating my most deepest personal space is for my highest good, rather than falling into well, this is negative and this is positive. And then my bigger aura out beyond my personal egg is still in a receptive space, But the things that move past my auric cellular membrane, I guess I'll call it, are set up with these protein receptors for my highest good. If they're going to penetrate my most personal energy, they're bringing me something, and I can still then hold the awareness of the other things outside of my personal space. So for me, I can't imagine shutting it down. You know, I've got my soundboard, and then I've got my layers of filters, so that there is all of this awareness. But when it comes to my most personal space, what is really moving me is directly for my highest good. And it isn't labeled negative or positive or bad or good. If it's getting this close to me, it is here to support me and hold me and meet me. So that's just, I wanted your take on it, because I'm like, maybe this is my own mess coming up about the idea of shutting down.
No.
So
No, and I love how you describe that, because I can feel it. Like when I am so the intention emotional girl. I'm not super anatomy, science, whatever. So I love that you have that, and your explanation of it while I'm sitting here, I'm like feeling into it as you're saying it. And it's like, holy shit. I'm like, all of a sudden everything in my back's like, and it was like, oh my God, that feels so cool. But I think that's really important. I love what you're saying, because that, to me, that's how intention can actually work to help, right? Which is where it's like, there is no good or bad. There's just, I'm wired straight to my highest good.
Yeah.
Period. And you're done. Like, that's how I do my protection. I'm like, I've got my people all around me if it's needed. I don't ever call on protection for the most part. It's just there. It's always there.
Yeah. I've got a big, I created a cellular membrane actually over my home and my property, including like where we park our cars on the street. It goes into the alley in the back, and it's a big cellular membrane that sits over where our home is, where kind of our most personal sacred spaces, that is set up once again for highest good. So,
That's smart.
the people that can find us are finding us because it's for our highest good for them to find us.
100%.
So having something like that set up that is sustainable and running on life force energy. Once again, that aura piece, it's running on, our buildings are living things. They collect and hold the souls of the trees and the stone and everything that was put into building them, as well as fragments of the people that have lived there. And that creates the soul of a building, and it has just as much of an aura as everything else. We all have morphogenic fields that connect us in with everything else. Ooh.
100%.
Floyd would have loved this stream. Oh, well, thank you, Dawn. So yeah, there's energy pieces for those that want to kind of dig more into the cellular membrane idea. Dr. Bruce Lipton wrote a book called The Biology of Belief, in which he really deep dives into how the cell membrane is actually the brain of the cell, not the nucleus. The nucleus is the reproductive organs, because if you enucleate a cell, which means you pull out the nucleus, the cell can continue to live its natural lifespan. It just cannot reproduce anymore. So just like you can take the gonads, a woman can have a hysterectomy, a man can, have a testicle removed, and we can still survive without our gonads. It's okay. That's the same with the cell, but when you pierce that cellular membrane, the cell dies. So the cellular membrane is actually the brain of a cell, and what we believe in actually dictates on a cellular level the protein receptors of our cells. So when we move from that space of, well, what do we believe? Are we going to need to close our aura against negative things or bad things? Or can we remain open with filters and our guides and our guardians and all of our things in place? How can we move differently in the world?
Yeah, woman. I love that. I love living questions. So I just love that. Like, how can we move differently in the world?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching something this morning, and what I was watching was literally talking about, like, if you're looking for something where it's like, I need a solution, I need a solution, I need a solution. There's a way to, you've got to change your energy to become the energy of the solution before the solution presents itself, rather than stay in the energy of the problem or the lack or the whatever. And so and to me, that's kind of like living in the question. Like, yeah, I'm living the answer, but the answer isn't here yet. Right.
Yeah.
It's about faith. I have to have faith. And in order to have faith, it's like, okay, who would I be if the solution was already here? How would I be acting differently? How would it, whatever? Because that frequency that you were talking about, like being in like joy and gratitude and all of that kind of stuff, heightens up. I'm a magnet. I'm going to draw to me what I'm vibrating at. But this idea, because I know thousands of people talked about this, of like, I have to raise my vibration, has gotten so hard, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm vibrating. Now what? It's like the mind cannot do this. So the mind is the thing that has been taking all of these ideas about how we improve ourselves and trying to implement them. And it's like, you're not talking about the fact that it cannot happen that way, because all of this is what brings it in. This gets in our way. So I can't do it with this. So literally, if I want to experience something different, I have to experience it in my body. I have to pretend as if, and I can't imagine as if is not the same as behaving as if. And it's a really slippery, tricky slope in here. It's interesting because it's like you can make yourself wrong really fast. Yeah. And I don't like that. If you just keep it as an experiment, as a game, as something fun to play in, it keeps you much more in that childlike space of like, when I'm playing Barbies, and whatever. And I use that a lot, where it's like, well, I didn't know how it was going to happen. Right. I just was like, hey, what do you want today? I don't know. Let's go to the store. Okay. Ooh, I want ice cream. I didn't make any of this up. It just comes out of my head as I'm doing this because I'm in the moment. It's the same thing. So can I just play in that same energy of, I'm the solution? Oh my God, this has already happened. It's already done. I'm not trying to convince myself. I'm just playing with energy. Nothing is happening here. This is actually receiving everything that is happening here. It's not telling here what to do. That's where it's trouble. It has to be the receiver, because this thing has been holding the wrong space. Like, my lungs don't breathe for my heart. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, my heart, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So good. So, do you have any other pieces today, Becca?
I mean, I don't know. I could go on tons and tons and tons of things, but no, I mean, it's like, that feels really good to me, unless anybody's got questions about stuff.
We don't have any questions so far. We will be doing this on the second Monday of every month at noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific. We will be here on the YouTube waiting for your questions and just chatting about what is up and what is alive. I will be dropping, Becca, what is your YouTube channel, and kind of what are your pieces if people want to get a hold of you?
Pieces of jazz. You can find me at www.bridging-realms.com. I have some free stuff on there towards the bottom if you want to check it out. One of them is a subconscious pattern quiz that tells you how your subconscious is holding you hostage kind of thing. Other than that, my YouTube is bridging-realms.com or bridging-realms, whatever. There's no .com on YouTube. And Instagram, I'm just me, which is Becca Honeycutt, 2 C's and 2 T's in the Honeycutt, HUNNICUTT.
Fabulous. And I am Amy Elizabeth. You can find me everywhere under AE Body Alchemy. Click subscribe so you know when I go live. I do astrology reports when the spirit moves me. I will occasionally do some shamanic stuff, and being subscribed to our YouTube channels gets you in on that. I'll pop our links and contacts down in the show notes. I guess we'll call them show notes. I don't know what else.
So you're way ahead of me on this YouTube thing. So
we're gonna call them show notes. It's official. We're gonna call them show notes. And thanks so much for being here with us. Our next round will be February 13th. For those of you that are in the Twin Cities metro area, on January 14th, there's an event called Reimagine Your Routine. That's happening at the Wilderness. I will be speaking at that event as well as leading a shamanic journey. Tickets are still available. And I'm sure they'll be available the day of. I'm also offering, I think, 5 or 6 mini sessions for hands-on work that day. So thanks so much for being here, and until next